Hey everyone. So I just did 15 minutes, but you won't ever see it because I did not hit the record button. So there's that go. So now I'm tired, so I don't know if it'll be as good. So I don't know what I said during the course of the day. I don't remember. I was just furiously talking. So now I'm gonna try and give it to you piece by piece. I actually sat down with all my notes and tried to organize them, but that's not how we roll. We just kind of shoot from the hip and no retakes and no redos. So I'll just tell you everything that happened. So I walked into the courtroom and the prosecution and the defense are facing out towards the gallery. And I guess that's, you get to face your, they're not accusers, but whatever. The people judging you get to face your judges, not judges, judgers. So I walk in, I sit down, and Jeremy is directly in line with me. We are just like this. And he's just looking at me and I'm looking at him, and it's just epic. So that happened. They bring in the 50 jurors. And it's a shallow pool in Florida, and by that I mean gene pool. I love Florida, but based on that room, nobody will ever get an actual trial in Florida. They kicked 3 people out almost right off the bat just because they didn't kick them out. They make you stay there all day, even though there was a guy who literally, he was an African-American gentleman. I don't know if I was going to say that because I don't know if it's germane, but he raised his hand. The judge says, is there anybody here who can't serve or for any reason? And he raised his hand and said, I don't believe in the legal system. That guy should just go. Why are you still here? Also, we then got to find out, though, he is world famous and he has a performance tomorrow. So he can't possibly do jury duty because he's famous. And that's that. So they kicked out. I said they don't kick him out. They make him stay there all day, even though they know they're going to kick him out, which is nuts. So we kick out the 3 people who fell asleep during voir dire? How do we say that? You guys figure it out. 3 people fell asleep, so they're goners. There was 7 or 8 people who didn't grasp the language well enough to be in there. And then Wendy was there with me. She said 13. I only counted 7. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. That 13 people, the judge, when he told them that Jeremy was a registered sex offender, he said, is there anybody who can't, because of your own personal, experiences in life, who can't kind of handle that, don't want to be a part of it? And 13 people raised their hand and said, we're out. So now you're down to 13 plus 3 plus another 7. What is that, 65? So that's 20 people who are already immediately out. And it was just very long-winded with the prosecutor asking the same questions over and over again to try and, kind of get different answers out of people, which is why I said that coffee thing earlier. He was asking a lot of questions about coffee. Wendy thought he was asking questions about coffee and specifically to Jeremy. I didn't think that was the case, but who knows? Who am I to know? Okay, so I'm going off my notes a little bit. Judge Karstens. I see why he and Amir are pals. He seems like a very affable kind of guy, very nice, very low key, very easygoing. Really respected all the jurors. Was understood their issues, understood, and it was really cool. He said some people are oh, I can't do it, and they're and he said that Judge Carson said, what's your company's policy on jury duty? And some of them didn't know or whatever. He said, I'll call your boss. And he was serious. He said, I have no problem calling a company and getting them on the phone and doing that. I guess maybe it's so hard to get jurors in Florida that he would do that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, what I learned is if you have jury duty and your boss tells you can't go in Florida, the judge can hold your boss in contempt of court. Bring him in and hold him in contempt. It's not weird. But Judge Carstens explained all that, which was nice. Jury selection, Amir's assistant. I wrote down everybody's names here. prosecutor Justin Collins, who is really long-winded, and I think he's outclassed, quite frankly. Based on everything I saw today, I think Amir is he's just sharper. It's just the way I saw it. So the thing with Jeremy, I told everybody, what a creep. He's facing the gallery. So, when the judge is asking people, what their particular problem is that they can't attend jury duty, some of them are, whatever, childcare, I can't find childcare, I'm a single dad, I'm a single mom, and Jeremy's looking at them, doing this, looking right at them like a freaking stalker. And fun fact, he only did that with the women because he's a creep. But he was really, so imagine you go to jury duty and find out the guy on trial is a registered ex-offender, and then during voir dire, that's it, voir dire, now I got it. Judge Carson's explained what voir and dire are in French. I don't know. One of you smarties will write it. So imagine you go to jury duty to hear a case about a registered ex-offender, and he makes eye contact with you the whole time and is on your side, and like you're on his side it's the creepiest thing ever. The witnesses for the prosecution are James Woods, who I got to see and meet and have a long conversation with. So I will tell you about that in a little bit. Then Amy somebody, you guys know these names as well as I do, and maybe even better. Anna Rivera and Cara Lupon. There are 5 of them. I only got the 4 names because the prosecutor speaks 90 miles an hour. He said my name is Justin Collins 12 times. I had to go look it up because you're the manager of Collins. He says it so fast. James Woods, Amy something, Anna Rivera, and Cara Lupon. Those are the prosecution's witnesses. Jeremy's lone witness is Jennifer Burton. So imagine your fate was hanging on Jennifer Burton. And the prostitution, Jennifer Burton. See how I messed that up? Prosecution. The prosecution, it's a simple mistake, it's logical. The prosecution is probably excited to get Jen on the stand. I know I would. So here's the craziest part of my day. You're not even going to believe this. You're going to think I'm lying, but I swear on everything that's holy. Wendy made me take her to IHOP for lunch, and I got an IHOP hamburger, and that's never a good idea. So right when we returned to the courthouse, I had to use the restroom. So, by the way, there's 2 stalls in there, and one is like for a child. The toilet's like 6 inches off the ground. There's no shot I'm ever getting up off that toilet. So I used the handicap stall. So I'm in the handicap stall, and 2 guys come in, and one of them says, they're talking, and I'm not paying attention until I hear one of them say, Amir. So now, I'm like, aren't you supposed to look under the stall and see if there are feet there before you start having a conversation about the trial? So he said, one guy said to the other guy, I feel so bad. I hate giving Amir bad news. And I was like, and the other guy said to him, isn't that your job to do that? Which made me think that he was maybe a court something, or I don't know, what role he could have in that way. But I ran out the door to try and see who they were so I could put a name to a face and a sentence. And I was actually even hoping that Wendy had stayed around and waited, for me, but no, of course she didn't. So I don't know who they were, but think about that. I'm in the bathroom and I hear these guys. I hate to give bad news to Amir, which kind of led me to believe that maybe I was thinking the only thing I could think of would be if Jennifer wasn't showing up. What other bad news could it be? You only have one witness. What else could the bad news be? And I don't know who this guy was, and I'm really, that would have been the scoop of the century. But it's pretty cool that I even heard that. So those guys have to keep it zipped up in the bathroom. Get it? Zipped up in the bathroom. Okay, next. The gesturing, I told you all about that. I'm going to tell you about when they finally get, I told you did I say that? Judge Carson's had to tell the people. Jeremy made a website called Motor One's Moving. To hear the judge say Motor One's Moving more than once was pretty funny. That was that. Yeah. Boom. Jurors call him. Oh, so right in front of me. So I was in the last pew against the wall in the back. And there was a guy who actually didn't get picked for jury duty, which is probably a good thing, but he was an older gentleman. And at one point, he like kind of leaned over to the guy next to him, and he was talking about Jeremy. And he's like, he's a sick bastard. And I was like, bro, you don't even know. I didn't say that because that's illegal. But I was thinking it when he said it. He didn't get picked, so I don't feel bad. Like there's a guy on the jury who's already has a predisposed opinion of Jeremy, as if there's anybody on the earth who doesn't have a predisposed opinion of Jeremy. And the other thing was they went to lunch, right? All the prospective jurors go to lunch. And the judge, Carstens, says to them, you know, you're not supposed to talk about it. You know the deal. You're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to look this up. And I'm like, nobody can have a fair trial. Of course they're going to look it up. It's the first thing they're going to do when they walk out the door. Is they're going to go downstairs, open up YouTube, and type in Jeremy Dewitte. Problem is, the first thing they're going to see when they do that is my face as I'm standing in the back of the courtroom holding a clipboard like an idiot. So we were laughing about that too. But you can't have a fair trial. You can't leave people alone. I don't know. My legal team said that like they might put like security in there to make sure they don't do it in like the break room or whatever. I don't know. So that's that. I told you about that. Yeah, the woman was saying her childcare was difficult, and Jeremy was. All right, I'm on like page 7 now, so you got to bear with me. There was one just like I love the minutia of this kind of stuff and like what makes people tick. So the judge said to anybody, is there anybody who has travel plans today or tomorrow that would make it difficult for you to serve? And this one girl who actually did make it on the jury, God help us, she raised her hand and he picked on her and she said, I'm traveling. And he said, when? And she said, next month. And I was like, thanks for that. And she made it on the jury. I think she's the alternate though, thank God. That was that. One guy said he couldn't do jury duty because he was a full-time barista at Disney. So Judge Carson said that Disney's plan allowed him to be on jury duty, but they didn't pick him either. Also, there's a guy in front. There were 2 attorneys among the pool that they did not take. And like, I get that, like they may be predisposed to whatever, but one was a corporate attorney and the other was an out-of-work attorney. Don't you want the smartest people on the jury? There were 3 people to get picked. 2 of them were attorneys and one was an aerospace engineer. And no offense, but some of those people on that jury are not aerospace engineers, I can tell you that. I told you about the guy who said he was a state certified agent, and I almost lost it. I can't tell if this was in the video I didn't click record on or not, but yeah, some guy in the jury pool said he was a state certified agent, which I thought was funny. Drinking coffee. I know I got yelled at before about the coffee. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Yeah, I said every time somebody mentioned registered sex offender, you know, Jeremy was just screaming inside his head with the desperation to tell everybody it was a 16-year-old with a fake ID. I know she didn't. Don't tell me that's all a story. I know it. People feel the need to tell me that I'm wrong, that she wasn't in a club. I know that. Jeremy doodling. Jeremy was doodling the whole time, like writing, like furiously. What the fuck is he writing? It's nothing to write. They were talking about security footage. The prosecutor asked the jurors, you know, do you have security cameras in your home? That was like a big question. And Jeremy like immediately perked up. The idea of any kind of security footage gets Jeremy, gives him a little chubby. Let's see, what else? What was the other thing Jeremy did? All right, let me go. This thing, Jeremy kept continuing to nod. So they asked the jurors about how they feel about, this is interesting. They asked the jury, they said, listen, everybody wants air conditioning in this hotel room. Everybody wants, you know, DNA and video surveillance pictures. They said, can you come to a conclusion just based on eyewitness what's the word? Not eyewitness. Testimony. Witness testimony. You think you could render a verdict not with any of the CSI stuff, just testimony? And he was saying, and can you identify if someone's lying to you? And that was a big thing. And the corporate lawyer, he really spent some time on that with her. And she was like, yep, people just lie. And I definitely got the sense he was laying the groundwork to convince a jury that Jeremy's a liar. That's, I think, what he was doing. Again, I don't think he's the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I think that's where he was going with that. All right, next. The Jeremy glasses, I told you about that. Always trying to manipulate. The two guys, I told you about that. I don't know who hasn't seen the picture of Jeremy's legal team, but it's pretty legit. That's Amir's hair. It's definite. Okay. That's good. And the profile picture of Jeremy with that beak. He looks like a weasel. Jeremy, that beak of his, and those beady little eyes, he's a weasel. There's that. Dismissed the jurors who fell asleep sleeping. I asked Wendy if he was wearing a bulletproof vest under his shirt because this was a high-risk trial. Amir is sharper than the other jabroni. I told you that. Okay. Now, I will get to the actual trial. The actual trial began. The prosecution's first witness was James Woods, as we know, is Jeremy's probation officer, or was. I always feel like these guys are not prepared. He's a very nice guy, but I always feel like not prepared. Like, the first question they asked him, when did you meet Jeremy? And he gave a date, but then they ask another question that if you're going to trial on something and you're going to be asked these questions on the witness stand, don't you do a little? Oh, I forgot. That guy yelled at me the other day because I didn't have the thing like this. So don't you have these questions I have to look this way now. Don't you have these questions, these answers ready to go? It's so weird. So anyway, James Wood gets on the stand, and he's not on the stand for 5 minutes. There's a big hullabaloo. We got to send James Woods out of the room because James Woods said that he met Jeremy in 2022. So Amir says we don't like that because in his testimony somehow he said the jury knew Jeremy was a registered sex offender, but Amir didn't want to introduce any other crimes into this. So when Woods said that I met Jeremy when he got out of jail in 2022, now it creates, according to Amir, it creates a situation where the jury thinks that he's a guy who's been in jail a lot. Fun fact, he is. But you're not allowed to, I guess, enter that onto the record. So they sent James Woods out of the room. The answer to that question was, we're going to give the jury new instructions. We're going to write our own instructions. I guess they're standard instructions you give to the jury. So they're going to write their own instructions, but we don't want any more mention of Jeremy committing any other crimes other than that. Okay, so now James Woods comes back into the room. He starts testifying again, and again they kick him out because of something. So Amir, they all go up to the bench and they're talking, and Amir's interesting because Amir's a little bit of a showman. Every time he would come back from the bench, he would give Jeremy a look something reassuring or whatever, and almost I was always God, what did he get over on the judge? What is the judge going to give him because he's his buddy? I was constantly doing that. So now, I've been there a long day, so I go outside into the hallway, and there's James Woods. So I sit on my cell phone doing nothing. And then eventually, we strike up a conversation. It was James Woods and he's got a partner who is from New York. So that was a good way for me to start that thing up. So, so his partner, we move out into the corridor and we're talking. And I know I can't say anything about the trial, obviously, and I wouldn't try. But his partner asked me, he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here in Florida?" She was a she. She's like, "What are you doing here in Florida?" I said, "Oh, my daughter is here in Florida, and also, I'm sure Officer Woods will tell you that Jeremy is a little bit of a celebrity here in Florida." That was it. That was all I said. And Woods didn't say anything back. He didn't respond, as he shouldn't. And I said, "And I'm one of the nuts who follows him a little bit." And then that was kind of how the day ended, because they just locked up the courtroom. That was it. And Officer Woods had to actually be like, "Hey, you guys lock my stuff in there." So tomorrow, James Woods will be first on the stand, and then the prosecution says they have 5 witnesses, one of which they said will only be a follow-up witness, or what's the word? When you're not sure if something is true and you have to bring somebody else up to prove it. I forget. I'm getting old. And then, so it's 4 witnesses.